We are back with Volume 2 of the OTC Speedrun Watchlist, whatever you want to call it. Last week was a pretty big success. We had a lot of really good stocks mentioned on the channel, so I went through and cut them out each one by one, said, hey, this is who mentioned it. JJ came out with the fire when we did DDDX, had great DD. There was a PR that went unnoticed, basically talking about a bid with Boeing. Then the company was like, whoa, hey, guess what? We have a lot more news coming, so then it just exploded. So hopefully we get another one like that. I'm expecting some continuation from that one into this week because they said more news is coming. So instead of cutting out every single one like I did last time, because it basically took a little while, rolling with the coffee this morning, I'm just going to go through the list, and then, we'll go through all the 50 tabs I have. So like I said, get your favorite beverage, get some popcorn. We're going to spend probably about a good 20-30 minutes on this. So let's go ahead and run through it. First one, we have GEGI, Granite God, one of my buddies. He actually set a good to close order on GEGI, and it filled. I don't know what price he filled at, but he's like, hey, look, now I'm in. We'll see if that pays off. And then we have Stock Pop, GMPR. So I was looking through this one, and he puts pretty nice DD out here. And I was looking at the market cap on this thing in the chart, and I was like, it looks really good. So definitely keep an eye on this one. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. And then Steve with D-Lock. So Steve had mentioned D-Lock last week, and I think it was like 20s, like 28, maybe it had ran to 32, and it had a nice move again this week because of their PR, which we'll show. And JJ's at it again. He said GRPS, the harvest is coming, the shrimp harvest. And the funny thing I always thought GRPS was like the gummies, and I know they were working at a few different things, but we'll talk about that one a little bit too. And then we have G. Kadar here. He's at DRCR, and I expected this one to be 30 cents before I even looked at it, and was pretty surprised. And then Flico here at UCPA. Didn't find too much on it. I started peeking into it, but here's some good DD on it as well. But, it does have a really good share structure, so, we'll look at that one. And then my buddy Cold Hard Cash, I picked a few. Should have only picked one. Cash, come on, bro. SRNW, UMGP, and OSCI. So I don't have anything as far as a chart for SNR or SRNW, but I think there's something coming. It looks like it's starting to curl, closing up around 19. It's pushing through some MAs, so it's definitely piquing some interest. So let's see where that one goes, but we'll cover the others. And this guy, Penny Stock Poopy Taint. So hide your children, hide their ears. But this name is hilarious. So he had covered CVAT last week, which, we had a good opportunity to grab some really low, and it closed up a little bit higher. Then here's my buddy Jimmy. He said, let's do Anheuser-Busch. Razor said ARO or ARO, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And I think this thing has extreme potential from these levels, and we'll cover that one. I looked at this one. This one looks good too. SHMN. They just received $5 million funding. Almost done with San Diego manufacturing facility. Just signed some huge contracts. One being with, I'm not even going to pronounce it, in which they have a large market share, has not diluted, decent share structure. Currently trading at only, we'll look at that. Steven says ABML. These two are small caps, so we're not going to cover those today. So I'm sorry, Vital. Let's keep it OTC. But I do really like BRQS. That thing always runs. So if you accumulate, run, pop it, sell it, and just do it all over. Buddy Bill, he said DVLP. So we'll cover that one in short today. But they announced bankruptcy, so it's kind of hard to say. They said they're going to keep their assets. We'll see. Go Green said SAPX. I definitely think this could be a good trade out of this one. They said on their website they're working on major projects. We'll look at their Twitter as well. But they also said the updates were coming like June. And it's, almost August. So, slacking. Get it together. And then Calvin, great trader, says RJDG. So we'll peek at that one a little bit. And then Maddie Gambino, ABML. So commissioning their first-of-a-kind recycling plant going on now, revenue soon. And I think it was Steven that said last week that I think they're planning on through September, that they're going to have that running up and ready. So look for PR there possibly. And then we have GEGI, GEGI. We have a surprise announcement. They better after the stuff they pulled Friday. He also has EMGE CEOs, HIRU, which, we covered EMGE last week. Not too much to talk about that one. It just, we're waiting on news, basically. You accumulate 20s, once they have news again, you're going to make money. Simple as that. And again, not a financial advisor, So all these are just trade ideas from the community. So don't look at me and say, you said EMGA was going to be great. Do. So Don here says, hi, Chase. Not sure if you saw my tweet. Okay, UMGP. So that's second UMGP today. This one had some nice volume on Friday. And, we'll cover the chart and then what the company said. And this has made some pretty historic runs in the past. So definitely keep an eye on that one. IBGR, best long-term hold without question. Dry World Brands. TPG, you are right. So I saw the news back in June on Ronald Dio. The partnership with him, and it didn't really move much out of the gate. It had a nice little pop, but ever since then it's been climbing, and I cannot believe I missed this. So congratulations. I hope you've been in since penny, 2 pennies. Robert says, HIRU, we'll cover that one. Bobby from the ATVK days, ICNM. So we'll talk on this one a little bit, but I have to look more into the DD because I remember Cora was AAPT and then, the issue. So then I don't know if they moved the assets over to ICNM, which I think they did. And then, they talk about the market size and so forth. I haven't read any PRs recently, but I'm going to dig into this one a little bit more before I, spend too much time on it. But the only downside is probably the share structure, a little bit harder to move. As we know, OTC volume nowadays, it'll say 1.3 billion, but really how much volume is going into some of these pink sheets. So, I'd say on average, we probably get 400 or 500 million maybe. So it's hard to, if you have something with 8 bill, 6 bill, 10 bill float, it's a little bit tougher to move. But, if they have everything they say they're going to have, could be a really good one. All right, what do we have next? And then AAGP says also ICNM, revolutionary logistics with AI technology. So there could be a lot more than the surface is proving. So I'm definitely going to peek at that one a little bit more. Bobby again. So Ruben says CEOS. Covered this one last week. It's still churning in that like 037, 04 range. It hasn't been able to break out yet, just haven't had a lot of volume. But, the CEO, Kate, she's been very active saying, hey, it's coming. She even said it's coming with a blowtorch. So I hope she's ready to roast some shorties. OTC Gems. And then he basically talks about ZMRK. And then he had a nice little thread on it as well. So definitely follow him. And it's made some pretty prolific runs in the past as well. Cowboy Starfish, MIKP. And I really like this one as too. The only downside, it does not get a lot of volume. Even they say, hey, we have acquisitions coming, and it's a really cool IP. They're with Vampirella and everything else, and what they're trying to build and grow. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more love soon. But it could really punch out of the gate. And then the next one we're looking at is GVSI from Opticonica, and this thing it's been grinding. So it's one of those things that once it gets an update, it's going to get walked up, and I'll show you on the chart what it is. And then the next one we have Ted with B-Buzz. I think he mentioned that last week. And then we have Slim here with Quedin. And then what else we got? BMXI, DDDX, and then UPIN. So we'll cover those as well. So now we got the list. So now we're going to go through each one, do a speed run, and see what we think about each one. So DDDX, prolific remove. This is the chart as far as the daily, pushed up through with the 065 close. And then as you can see, it always had issues around 05. But, when we look at the weekly, this thing looks great. Accumulations up, broke downtrend. So as long as they keep, shareholders active saying we're working on this, I'd like to see what the purchase orders are, how much they're going to bring in revenues, what they're anticipating. A nice roadmap for the rest of the year would be really good. I think that would pique a little bit more interest. And then, as they said in that PR, we covered it last week, but they said they have a classified parts for, as far as this helicopter company, which is pretty cool as well. And then they went on to say, hey, guess what? We have more news coming next week. And then they're making these little guys too. Hopefully they can make me a shark and say, hey, here you go, Chase. Appreciate you. But yeah, so definitely keep an eye on them. More news coming this week. They said August is going to be good. Let's see. GEGI. So as you can see here, this wick came down and touched the 50 MA around 003. So, holding support there. Buyers brought it all the way back up, hammered it. And then same thing. It's always been pretty strong around the 003 area. The company did tweet after hours, after they had said, it's going to be a big week. So, they come out and they say, happy Monday, we have an exciting week. Last week we expanded our technologies through partnerships, took step forward positioning. Another exciting week planned. So what that makes people think is that we have more news coming. They could have just said, we're working on something. And what I'd like to see from this company, they could easily just show blueprints. They could show machine work. They could show the facility. Anything, just to kind of say, hey, look, this is where we're at. Clearly, it's going to take a process to go through the developmental stage, but doing this was a little off to me. But they said, please know we aren't stockpiling PRs to ride the wave of excitement. We are feverishly working to ensure that we are aligning with the right partners and opportunities to solve issues with our technology. But then they said we would rather be at 000 across the board than be deceptive. So I don't think they were really talking about the share price. I know a lot of people saw that, so this could have an opportunity to get some cheap shares, coming Monday. But I think they're just saying we'd rather be, flat across the board. Like, hey guys, this is what's coming. We're working on this. It's not going to happen overnight. So they have had some communication. They're talking about the beta program. So I wouldn't look into this too much. Of course, bashers, it's going to fuel them. But, they just need a better IR communication. That's it. So you have your roadmap. They said the roadmap's clear. They're working on it. And they've had some nice news recently. I think the expectations are just maybe too high for this one right now. But, we'll see what they bring in the future. GMPR. So this is one Stock Pop mentioned. And this thing is in trips. So I remember trading this thing, I think it was a year or two ago. And it was like 5 cents, like 2 cents, 5 cents, made a nice little run. This thing is in trips. And normally I'd say it's probably gotten hammered with dilution, which it probably has had some, but the accumulation is up very strong. I mean, clearly, probably because, as far as the volume, but it even wicked down to trip 3 maybe the other day, which is crazy. But it looks like it wants to curl back up into 001. And, they talked about their news that are coming, but look at this thing. So this is the company Twitter, and they said they have lots of exciting news coming. Look at this share structure. So this thing is about, we'll call it 300 mil, between the unrestricted and held at DTC. So 300 mil float in trips with news coming that's made runs 10,000 times, that it has before. So could be a heck of an opportunity just to accumulate this one and just wait. D-Lock, and we talked about this one with Steven. So he'd mentioned this one, and this chart is beautiful. It's just been curling up. Accumulation is strong. Doesn't show any signs of dilution or selling. RSI is a little hot, but it's kind of in that power zone, so it's not in the 90s. It's not running there for like a week. So this could continue going. And looks like it's trying to top up here around 0038, so it needs to bust through that. But it should pull up these EMAs with it. That way it can continue curling up. But they had a nice PR. So I thought after their last PR, that they weren't going to hear nothing for like months, kind of because it's been pretty quiet. But then they go through and they say, Digital Location CEO Rich Berliner discussed the potential of direct satellites to smartphone communications with space technology and security expert. So now that will lead to speculation. And we know OTC is all about speculative buying and buying anticipation, for news events, accelerated programs and so forth. But D-Lock's still a good share structure. Market cap's only 2.3 mil, 700 mil float. So this could be one of those ones that makes that big run to a penny. It really could. If they keep communicating, they don't dilute, and they're like, hey, we have this, we're working on this. We have these new partnerships. I mean, who knows? They might even hashtag Tesla. We'll see. GRPS, so this is the one JJ had mentioned, and I remember this one making some pretty strong moves in the past, within a year or two ago. I mean, it used to trade around a penny, and then 008, 007, so now it's, kind of churning out here between this range of 0034 and we'll call it 0048. But it's made some nice moves in the past, so we're going to talk about this one. This one has a lot of DD behind it, and then so now they're Trans-American Agriculture, and then their latest PR says, we have submitted our application to the Coastal Agriculture Authority in India to become the preferred supplier of pathogen-free broodstock. So basically, they're trying to build super shrimp, more or less. But, they talked about their revenue, and I like it that they're putting out consistent news, but they talked about their revenue, I think it was back in October, with this program to be anywhere from 7 million to 14 million over the next 1 to 2 years. So that's a good opportunity. As far as the market cap, it's trading at 5 mil. So there's definitely opportunity for growth there. This thing, and it trades really nice too. I mean, I was looking at level 2 on Friday, and there wasn't much on there. It doesn't get a lot of volume yet because it really needs that speculative buying. It needs to say, hey, we're working on this. These are our partners. We have a meeting with so and so, and that'll get the blood flowing. DRCR. So this is the one that K Gadar mentioned, or G Gadar, and I was like, hey, this thing used to trade 40 cents. I think it even hit $1 at one point in the past couple of years. But as far as gaming, casino, and sports betting and so forth, they put out a massive tweet saying DRCR celebrating the first year with $68 million in revenue. Swifty Global sets its sights on scaling up and expanding territories despite market headwinds. We are confident about our future and continue working towards becoming a global leader. So, and then this is the actual PR here. So, if you want to take a second to read it, but, it basically says 68 million in revenue and positive cash flow. This thing, what is it trading at? 6 mil market cap? It's like a 20 mil float. And really, most of it's locked up or restricted. So this thing's probably more like a 3 mil market cap doing 68 mil in revenue a year and their positive cash flow with a really nice sector. So I don't anticipate this one being down here. Might have some dilution, so I have to look more into that, based on the downtrend and the accumulation line. But, either way, this thing is crazy undervalued for what they're doing. UCPA, so this is the one Lico mentioned, or Lyco, not sure how you pronounce it. Sorry, dude. But, working on a downtrend as well, but accumulation is very strong, so it just tells me there isn't too much volume, too much investor interest now. But, with the share structure, with the moves this thing's made in the past, this could be a really strong stock. And then, again, here's his little DD on it, basically saying 500 mil float, no dilution, 52-week lows, recent change in control, no change in OS shares, no notes, Making Science owns 69% of the company, 7 subs, 12.7 gross profit increase. So great stock, shouldn't be down here, but, we'll see if retail comes after it. And then, so we go here, basically looking at the market cap, share structure, and everything else. So looks good. And then here is UMGP. So this is the one that Cold Hard Cash had mentioned. I think it was Don the man. UMGP. So this has made some strong runs in the past. I think it hit $3 at one point, and this is actually the weekly chart because the daily was just like, it's a low float, so it was all over the place. So you can kind of see here, 80 cents. What is this? 40 cents, and then just most recently back in February hit $1. And then, kind of churned down, lost investor interest, came back. And it always loves to come back down to this 20s area and move back up and have another run back into, 3 runs over 50, 60, 80 cents, dollars in the past couple of years. So they actually came out and said, first they were talking about Netflix recommendation, and then they were talking about revenue and so forth. And then the company says they've been working on new and exciting opportunities. We are excited to share a series of announcements starting next week. So it doesn't sound just like one piece of news. It sounds like several. Could be 1, 2, 3. Could be partnerships. If it has anything to do with Netflix, any type of speculation at all, this could make that big move back up. And they were talking about AI down here as well, and tech. So maybe they'll have an AI acquisition. Maybe they're working with somebody with AI. Maybe they're doing some sort of AI film because they've always been in media and film and the whole nine. So keep an eye on that one. As they said, announcements starting next week. It did have a nice move on Friday. Nice volume. It was almost 200,000 in volume. OSCI. So this one, as you can see, started curling back up, and then it's had trouble about the 0.4 area. And they had said, we hired IR, everything's coming back into place, and then they put out this picture, and then, they kind of go through, and then they put this up as well, saying, good morning shareholders, more equipment has arrived to come next week. We're working tirelessly. Exciting times are upon us. So this is very cool. So they're currently active. I'd like to see a little bit more as far as the footage. But the biggest thing with them is compliance. So they're still pink limited. So, and I know they recently, I don't know if the CEO stepped down or was removed. So I'm thinking somebody's going to step into his place. So we need to find change of control. We need to look for pink current. That way investors are kind of or shareholders, traders, whatever you want to call it, are like, hey, look, this one's good to go. Especially because they talked about billions and billions in gold. Are they going to find that? We don't know. Are they going to find 70 to 100 million? Probably. If they have all this gold, it's good to go. So keep an eye on OSCI. CVAT. So this one is penny stock poopy taints stock that he likes. And, as you can see here, wick down. So somebody was able to get some 013s, and then, it came up and retested this 21MA at 02. And then now the company said had a highly productive meeting in LA with some Desmet Ballista Group management team, our valued partners. We discussed new applications for our technology and strategies to accelerate sales, setting the tone for the months ahead. So what that tells me, and we talked about this one last week. So it's a nanotechnology company with sustainable future, founded in 2007. CTI currently has over 40 patents worldwide. So that tells me they're going to have lots of news coming. For me, this is one I would definitely accumulate because of the share structure. And if, does get quiet, does kind of sell off, and you do accumulate in that 013, 014 area, and then they start bringing out, hey, news is coming next week. Guess what? Guess where it's going? Back to 02. So keep an eye on that one. SHMN. So this is where Albert the Einstein actually pointed out this one. And this looks pretty good. Accumulation looks strong. It is a trip stock. But I was reading through this, and then this is their recent PR. The company has secured up to $5 million in financing and has already received its first installment. And they talked about it being a financial note, and so basically be locked up for a year. And then, to talk about this, and I was reading through it. We appreciate the interest, questions, and concerns. Our plan is financing. We have updated our progress through press releases, and we are confident that a solid plan to complete phase one without external funding. We've already secured some. We have some false misleading information circulates on boards. So I'll cover this one a little bit more, but basically they got a big loan. They're going through phase one and phase two of this building project, and they got, $1 million note or a 1 year note secured. So should be good to go. So this thing could definitely move once they start putting updates out. And then, just looking at the market cap, $1 million market cap, and then 1.2 float. So in trips, this looks good. I mean, 0007, 008, crazy. AHRO. So love the CEO of this company. He's very passionate. He loves to chat, and he's very excitable. And then they recently talked about having their notes paid off, or they're done, churned out, whatever you call it, converted, I guess we'll say. But this thing at this current share price with what they have coming, to me is, I'm not going to say it's a buy because I'm not a financial advisor, but if you can get trips, you can get 001, 0001, or 11. So, where's the tweet I was looking for? So they're talking about 8K filing, 24-hour stopping network. So they're talking about Maybachs. Okay, and this is when they were talking about the conversions. Where are you? Here you are. So our deal with the $85 million MFGR is still on, and attorney review arm wrestling with language. It's an exciting partnership, an LOI to follow. Now they talked about this thing. Where is it? I could have swore it said it was. Okay, so we're anticipate closing the deal by the middle of August and launching both channels shortly thereafter. Maybachs is working on channel positioning and logistics. So, they just recently converted their last note, trading at bottom, and we have a catalyst coming up in 2 weeks, basically saying, this is when it's going to close out and it's going to launch. But they're very active. The only problem is, the stock kind of trades funny because I think it's an unsolicited quote. So keep an eye on this one. I think it's definitely one I'm going to be picking up around 001, 0011 because, the moves it's made in the past are crazy. I don't know what this is. CNFN? Skip. DVLP. So Bill. So this one, and I got burned on this one, because I was accumulating because I knew that it was going to climb up into their quarterly or their earnings because they kept talking about their earnings. They were quiet. They said, our work will show proof in our filings. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start accumulating this one because coming up into their their fins, it's going to curl up. People are going to anticipate buying into that. Well, they were, as you can see, it started moving up and then it got killed. So they basically had it was an 8K after hours talking about bankruptcy. Then they said, hey, look, we're still going to be able to retain our assets through this type of bankruptcy. And then, it kind of peaked up a little bit. But who knows what's going to happen with this one? I don't know. I got burned on it. It's not for me. But But could you have a trade out of it? Definitely. If you're accumulating down in trips and something happens where they either don't do the bankruptcy, figure out a different plan, maybe do a secured note to whoever, he talked about somebody with a Reg 8 previously, but I just don't know enough, and stock infuriates me. So let's go to the next one. SAPX. So SAPX, they are not good on their timelines, but down here, if you were able to pick some up at trip 4, it's pretty solid. It generally trades 0.005 all the way up to 0.008. And as you can see here, per inquiry, SAPX has been negotiating an acquisition target, which the company cannot elaborate on just yet. We expect to release an update shortly. Probably that was at June 15th. We're almost in August. And then now we will begin releasing SAPX updates next week. Several topics to address our fiscal year, hits its conclusion. But again, June 23rd, I don't see any updates. So, it's companies like this that need pure IR teams and marketing to say, hey, this is where we're at. This is the roadmap, and then they have investor relations constantly updating people. Okay, I spoke to so-and-so, and it looks like, we'll have something in the next 2 weeks. That way they don't say, we'll have something for you next week, and then they don't. So, it's pretty common in the OTC. That's why they need marketing teams everywhere to get these things going. RJDG. I don't know too much about this one, but I did read their recent PR, and it looks pretty good. So, it's been trading this channel for a while. And, I was looking at the market cap, and then I looked at the news, and it basically says RJDG, time finally quarterly, yada yada, shows revenue from operations of $3.6 million as far as May 31st, which is pretty impressive. You look at the security details, it's a $2 million market cap. So judging just by that, it's pretty undervalued. And you can see it's made a couple of nice moves into the 60s. So I think people are going to be accumulating this one. And now, if the company got more active on social media, probably a penny runner, to be honest with you. So next one, ICNM. This is one Bobby was talking about earlier. It looks pretty good down here at trip 4. I'm not going to lie. Accumulation looks solid, so it doesn't look like there's any pure selling. It looks like people are just waiting. The updates are hitting, but there's no current heavy buying power. So they're going to need something to really push through and work back up. But could this be a 100% runner from this point? Yeah, definitely. It traded up in this 05 to 08 point, and if you can catch some at 03, 02, pretty low risk there. And then, so this is where, the company, I guess this is their IR team talking about investors and so forth. So, as I mentioned earlier, I got to do a deep dive on this one because I just don't know too much about it. And then Cowboy Starfish talked about MIKP, and this company is awesome. They really are. Because it's a niche company. Problem is they just don't get a lot of volume buying, but they did hint at acquisitions for next week. So thanks all attended yesterday's assembly, and then you can watch that video as well, the shareholder video. But the video of the meeting will be posted soon and discussed. We have an exciting property acquisition to announce in the coming days. So this was 3 days ago. So definitely look for news next week. And then they talk about their IP in Vampirella. So I think it's a really neat company. I really like it. All right, and then we have, pull this out, but we have CEOs. So we've talked about this one since, I've been talking about this one for a while. I think we first covered it 025, 03, and you can tell buyers are accumulating all the dips. It just doesn't have a lot of volume. But coming into their quarterly, Kate Monroe, she said, taking shorts out of the blowtorch, basically. She's ready to light it on fire. So I think once people see these fins, and if they are what I think they are, it's going to bring in probably not only just retail shareholders, but I can imagine big consultant companies start putting some serious money into this. So, definitely follow that one. We got about 2 weeks till we see those posts. All right, and so we did McB. We have next, HIRU. So luckily, we talked about this last week, and we were like, hey, this might break into a downtrend. It's been following that trend line all the way up, and buyers stepped in. Now it looks like it's curling back up. It wants to leg up. It really does. If we could just keep people from flipping it. But, you're looking at 0045, but it had a nice close up at 48. This thing is ready to retest 53. And then they're continuously putting out updates. Hey, we bought more shares. They are buying with retail. So it's not like they bought down low or they're backdating their buys. They basically bought 40s, 50s. They're buying with everybody else. So they're showing confidence. We believe in what we're doing. we have new customers coming, big revenue coming, and they're going to have their financials here in a couple weeks. So same thing, like CEOs, like these are real companies, real revenue, doing real things. Like these are the ones that need the attention. GVSI, mentioned it last week when we talked about it, and I'm like, this thing is going to start curling up. When they come out and they say, hey, name change coming, we don't know when. I've been checking FINRA's list every day, but you can see the anticipation buying. So it broke the downtrend. Now it's curling back up. Now, if it breaks a 015 area, I think people are going to start getting FOMO, because there's always trigger points when traders are either swinging, investing. They like to be under a certain number. So now they clearly missed 01. And then, it's like 012. So now, if we're breaking up around 015, I can see some pretty strong buying happening here, because they want to lock in that 015, because once the name change hits, if they start talking about acquisitions, the merger finally starts happening, 03, 05, who knows where it can go. But I really like this one. I know a lot of people, I don't like George Sharp. Whatever about George Sharp. Who cares? Don't think about the CEO, because it'll be a merger for someone else. So, yeah, he has an attitude and it is what it is. But just look at the chart. Chart looks good, right? It does. So, don't think about CEO. You hate him. Don't, miss out on a trade because of your bias. And then, as you said here, disposed prior management. So that was July 18th. So we could see it within 30 days. So maybe a couple more weeks. But definitely check FINRA's daily list. That'll help out a little bit better. BBuzz, who mentioned this last week? I can't remember exactly who it was. Was it Steven? BBuzz, so not much is happening. So they did same thing. I mean, no real change from last week to this week. Accumulation is actually a little bit stronger, so people are buying the dip. They said the super app is coming. I would like to see it start curling back up through 13, to show real buying power. And then ABML. So they talked about this last week. We looked at it earlier, where they have their recycling plan, should be up and running. Could it come down and test 60, 55? It very well could. Accumulation's down, but it's oversold. It really is. The RSI is in 25. So, once they start putting out PRs, this could be a real rocket coming off bottom. And then Quedin, QEDN. So I know this company's always talking about Nestle. Like, I feel like they've been talking about Nestle since I was in high school. And I don't know what has happened with that, if they've gotten their partnership. So if you know, drop it in the comments so I can see a little bit more DD on it. And I just know they're always talking about Nestle, and I pulled up their Twitter, and it very well could. So if they PR about Nestle, and I know they've talked about Starbucks in the past, but they request from Nestle to provide shareholder lists of Quedin, to make sure that nobody is a competitor of Nestle and so forth. So if they have a Nestle PR, yeah, this thing's going to go, probably 100% ish from here, maybe even more. So keep an eye on that one. UPIN. So UPIN, I remember this thing has made some pretty strong runs in the past. To me, it's always traded in that like 025, 035 area. Doesn't get a lot of volume, but seeing it down here at 013 to me is crazy. So they have real revenue, real projects. Problem is, it's not a hot sector. So I know they deal with like denim, but it doesn't really matter, because when they say stuff like this back in April, we have a minimum $2.5 million guaranteed per year, and then they've done purchase order or sales in the past where I think they did like 5 million previously, but they just don't update enough. So this was back in April. Then you have July. Hey, we received about new shares being on. But like, if they had a good IR team, hey guys, we're working on this. Here's a video of this. This is our plant. This is where we're processing everything. Kind of like HIRU does. HIRU does that. This is our plant. This is our bottling. This is our water. This is our shipments. This is what we're doing. If they had a strong IR team, look at this market cap. This thing is stupid. 700K market cap. This company does like 5 mil a year, maybe more, 8 mil. So if you know, drop it in the comments. Let me know exactly how much they do. I could go through financials all day, but we're probably already running 30 plus minutes on this video. But it's crazy. Good one to accumulate. And I know a lot of people are just accumulating the crap out of this thing because of the runs it has made in the past. So if they come through, hey, we had another $2.5 million purchase order. Where's this going to go? 03, 04 all day. ZMRK. So I was kind of looking at this. I didn't have too much DD on it, but float is good, between 270, 300 mil. So it moves very good. It's almost near trips. I've seen this thing run to 02, or 002, 003 up through what, a penny a couple of years ago. So low float, he has a lot of good DD on this. So definitely keep an eye on that one. B-Buzz, this one we talked about earlier. It's just out of place. And then here we go. So it must have been on there twice. So yeah, it was Ted. Wasn't Ted. Ted. All right. IBGR. So this is like that girlfriend you had in like 7th grade that got away, and you just always think about it because I saw the news back when, what did it come out? Scienceburg historic multi-year partnership with Ronaldinho. Okay, this was 620. Okay, and I remember seeing this news like, oh, it's pretty good, but I saw the volume and it just didn't get a lot of volume, so I was like, okay, you know, maybe it's just going through mist. Okay, look at this thing. This thing has just been climbing. I mean, it hit, what, 7 cents almost. And then that's just in the past year. So if you would have grabbed this thing back at 015, 300, 400%. So this thing is heavily under the radar. Has it already made a move? Yes. Is it going to continue? Probably. I mean, just looking at it, like, so, I mean, if they come through and they continue hitting news like this and retail gets behind this, you know, looking at the security details, 100 mil float, 130, this could make some strong moves. If they sign another deal like Ronaldinho, like, it's going. And then BMXI. I don't know too much about this one. This one was a late ad that I saw that somebody had posted. And I think they deal with, you know, was it gold mining? I was kind of going through Brookmont Gold. I hope this is the right place to see BMXI. But I haven't seen too much that's really going to drive interest other than what gold mining, kind of like OSCI, like, you know, are they showing operations? I started scanning through it and looking at their PRs. So if you have good DD on this, feel free to post it down in the comments. Somebody had mentioned a 4 and 10 was coming, but, you know, good share structure. Can it go? Yeah, it's made some strong moves in the past. So people are definitely accumulating because at some point it's going to go like they all do. And last one of the day, this is for our buddy. He said Bud. He wanted to see Anheuser-Busch. Clearly not an OTC, so, you know, as you can see here, it's having trouble around this area. Was at 59. It's kind of trading this channel, but, you know, it broke out and it got hammered from that Dylan Muldowney, Dylan whatever. But, you know, it's kind of coming back alive, and you know, it is what it is, but, you know, you can see here it's double topping around this area where it's basically having this gap resistance. Break past this, you know, could definitely climb back up into it, but, you know, it just doesn't get a lot of movement. So if I was long on a stock, I definitely probably wouldn't pick Bud. I'd probably pick something a little bit more beaten down, but, you know, that's for another day. So that was a lot. I am thirsty. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So I'm going to try and do this every week. That way everybody can kind of look at it and say, this looks good. Kind of like IBGR. I had no idea. If I would have seen that weeks ago, like, you know, if we would have been doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks, I would have seen that and be like, wow, hey, guess what? 400% runner. But that's what's important about this, the community coming together saying, I want to see this, let's talk about this. So, you know, if anything I've talked about today is incorrect or you want to share anything else on it, drop it in the comments for everybody to see. So again, appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you next week. See ya.